In the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, Desmond grows up with his family, including his brother Hal, his deeply religious mother Bertha, and his father Tom, a former soldier. One afternoon, a fight between Desmond and Hal escalates, and Desmond, in an act of self-defense, nearly kills his brother with a brick.
Is he breathing?
Hal survives, but the violent experience leaves Desmond shaken. His mother's words only deepen his guilt. She tells him that what he did was the gravest sin of all. 15 years later, while helping at the local church, Desmond witnesses a man suffering an accident in the street. Without hesitation, he rushes to help, using his belt as a tourniquet to stop the bleeding. He then takes the injured man to the hospital, where the doctor praises his quick thinking, telling him he just saved a life. Observing the nurses and doctors at work, Desmond feels something awaken inside him. He has always dreamed of being a doctor, but never had the proper education to pursue it. That same day, he meets a nurse named Dorothy and is instantly captivated by her. Desperate for an excuse to talk to her, he even agrees to donate blood on the spot.
Didn't get much school.
The next day, he returns to the hospital dressed elegantly, determined to woo Dorothy and ask her on a date. Their first date goes well, despite Desmond still learning how to talk to women. However, Dorothy is somewhat surprised when he kisses her without warning. She would have preferred him to ask first. Despite this awkward moment, their relationship flourishes. Dorothy shares medical books with him, helping him learn more about the subject. A few days later, Hal surprises the family by announcing he has enlisted in the army to fight in World War II. He waited until it was a done deal to tell them, knowing they would disapprove. He is right. Bertha hates the idea because taking a life goes against God's commandments, and the sight of Hal in uniform triggers painful memories for Tom. Unable to bear it, Tom asks his son to leave the room. Not long after, Desmond tells Dorothy that he also plans to enlist, but as a combat medic. Wanting to set things right before leaving, he proposes to Dorothy, and she accepts. They set a wedding date, planning to marry when he gets his first leave. Before departing, Desmond visits his father, who is at the cemetery by the graves of his fallen friends. With bitterness in his voice, Tom speaks of how foolish they were to believe in the glory of war. He admits he does not want to bury his sons as well, and has little hope that Desmond can survive armed only with his convictions. The day Desmond leaves for training at Fort Jackson, Dorothy gives him a Bible with her photo inside, a token of love and faith for him to carry into the unknown. Upon arriving at Fort Jackson, Desmond meets his fellow soldiers, including Smitty, who mockingly calls him 2 rounds while casually flipping a knife. Their assigned drill sergeant, Howell, makes an entrance, catching everyone off guard with a deafening shout. The sudden shock causes Smitty to drop his knife right onto his own foot, while another soldier, still undressed, doesn't even have time to put on his clothes. Sergeant Howell is the definition of a military stereotype: loud, aggressive, and quick to insult every soldier based on their appearance. Desmond, however, finds his exaggerated antics strangely funny. As for the soldier who didn't dress in time, he is punished by being forced to start training completely naked. During basic training, Desmond struggles with tying knots, but his upbringing in the mountains gives him an edge on the obstacle course, allowing him to excel. The real trouble begins when they move to weapons handling, and Desmond flatly refuses to take up a rifle. Immediately, Howell drags Desmond to Captain Glover's office, where Desmond explains that he was told he wouldn't be required to handle weapons and that he should never have been assigned to an infantry unit in the first place. He clarifies that as a Seventh-day Adventist, he cannot work on Saturdays because it is his Sabbath. Glover finds the whole situation ridiculous. Convinced that Desmond is unreliable in battle if he refuses to follow basic orders, he sends him for a Section 8 psychiatric evaluation, assuming he must be unfit for service. Later, Howell addresses the other soldiers in the most condescending way possible, informing them of Desmond's refusal to fight. He makes it clear that Desmond cannot be trusted in combat. That night, just before lights out, Smitty tries to provoke Desmond by snatching his Bible, hoping to incite a fight. But Desmond stays calm, simply asking for it back with a polite please, refusing to react to the bullying. The next day, Desmond undergoes his psychiatric evaluation. He explains that he doesn't hear voices or have delusions. He is fully aware of his differences, but is simply a man of strong faith, not a madman. The doctor determines that Desmond is completely sane and does not qualify for a Section 8 discharge. By law, this means he is allowed to continue serving as a combat medic as long as he meets all other training requirements. However, Captain Glover still wants him gone. Since he cannot legally discharge him, he orders Howell to make Desmond's life miserable. From that point on, Desmond is assigned the most grueling tasks, including scrubbing toilets. Howell goes even further by kicking Desmond's bed one morning, making it clear to the entire barracks that no one will get their scheduled weekend leave, strongly implying it is all Desmond's fault. Resentment boils over, and that night, the other soldiers gang up to beat Desmond savagely. Smitty, watching from a distance, wonders why Desmond insists on staying. The next morning, Howell sees Desmond covered in bruises and, for the first time, seems to show genuine concern. He advises Desmond to leave for his own good, but Desmond refuses, determined to stand by his beliefs no matter the cost. Desmond refuses to name the men who beat him, not even acknowledging he was attacked. Instead, he insists his bruises were caused by an accident. When the unit completes training, the soldiers are granted leave, except for Desmond, who was arrested for insubordination. Meanwhile, Dorothy waits for him at the altar, but deep down, she knows something must have happened. Desmond would never abandon her like that. Locked in his cell, Desmond experiences a moment of emotional breakdown, but when Captain Glover visits him, he remains composed. Glover offers him a way out. If Desmond pleads guilty, he can be released without formal charges, but Desmond refuses, holding firm to his convictions. Dorothy visits him later, begging him to put aside his pride and just complete the rifle training. She reminds him that firing a rifle doesn't necessarily mean killing. Still, Desmond remains unmoved. Seeing no other option, Dorothy calls Tom and Bertha, desperate to find another way to help him. That night, Desmond's sleep is haunted by nightmares, memories of the day he confronted his father while he was beating his mother, and the horror of struggling for the gun to take it away. The next morning, Tom arrives at Fort Jackson wearing his old uniform, decorated with all his medals. Without hesitation, he demands to speak with his former commanding officer, who now holds the rank of Brigadier General. At Desmond's court-martial, he maintains his plea of not guilty. Just as he is about to be sentenced, Tom bursts into the courtroom, carrying a letter from the Brigadier General. The letter reminds everyone that the right to be a conscientious objector is protected by the UN's Constitution. Not wanting to risk a conflict with Congress, the court has no choice but to drop the case. Desmond is acquitted of all charges and allowed to begin training as a combat medic. To celebrate their hard-won victory, Desmond and Dorothy finally marry, sharing their first night together as husband and wife. By 1945, Desmond's 77th Division is deployed to Okinawa, sent directly into the Pacific theater of war. The moment they arrive, they are met with a brutal sight: piles of bodies being hauled away like trash. The harsh reality sets in. They are here to replace the men who fell before them. The remaining survivors of the 96th Division merge with Glover's unit, and Desmond is introduced to two other medics. It is here they learn about the Maeda Escarpment, known to the soldiers as Hacksaw Ridge. The Americans have tried to capture it 6 times, but each time Japanese forces have pushed them back with relentless precision. The enemy deliberately targets medics, so Desmond is forced to remove his Red Cross insignia to avoid drawing attention. He is also given a new helmet for extra protection. A few days later, the unit reaches Hacksaw Ridge. Securing this position is critical. Whoever controls Okinawa controls Japan itself. The US Navy begins the assault, shelling enemy positions to weaken the Japanese defenses. As the battlefield is engulfed in explosions and smoke, Glover's unit seizes the moment and climbs the ridge, ready for combat. The battle is nothing short of brutal, with both sides suffering devastating losses. But Desmond never wavers. He continues to save as many men as he can, including those who are usually left behind, listed as missing or beyond salvation. Several times, Japanese soldiers come dangerously close to capturing him, but Smitty fights fiercely, killing them to protect Desmond at all costs. After long hours of brutal combat, night falls, and the American unit decides to dig in and establish a camp, holding their position with plans to finish clearing the ridge in the morning. Howell reminds everyone that going out alone is too dangerous, so they must even relieve themselves in their foxholes rather than risk exposure. But Desmond, unwilling to leave any wounded behind, insists on searching for survivors. He manages to bring back a couple of wounded soldiers before he and Smitty take cover in a foxhole. By now, Smitty's attitude toward Desmond has completely changed. After seeing him in action, he respects him deeply. The two even exchange lighthearted jokes, their bond strengthened by the battlefield. When Desmond falls asleep, he is tormented by a nightmare. Enemy soldiers storm their foxhole and kill them both. He wakes up on the verge of a breakdown and shares his dream with Smitty, who is amazed to realize that Desmond doesn't even pick up a weapon in his own subconscious. As they wait for dawn, Desmond finally opens up about his deep aversion to guns. One night, after enduring years of watching his drunk father beat his mother, he finally had enough. He confronted Tom, struggling to take a gun away and pointing it at him. But in that moment, instead of feeling powerful, Desmond saw his father fall to his knees crying. He felt as if he had killed him in his heart. That day, he vowed to God that he would never touch a weapon again. In return, Smitty shares a part of his own past. He never knew his father, and his mother abandoned him at an orphanage when he was a child. At dawn, the Japanese army launches a fierce counterattack, catching the Americans off guard as they struggle to wake up. Howell immediately orders a retreat. The naval fleet provides cover, but the chaos is overwhelming. In the midst of this, Smitty is mortally wounded before Desmond can get him to safety. With no other choice, the American forces are forced to retreat down the ridge, but Desmond does not follow. He hears the cries of the wounded left behind and feels a divine calling to help them. Captain Glover, leading the retreat, gathers the remaining survivors and leaves behind only a couple of soldiers to watch the battlefield. Ignoring his own safety, Desmond runs through the carnage, rescuing as many wounded soldiers as he can. Using a rope, he carefully lowers them down the ridge one by one. Hours pass, and Glover, realizing what is happening, requests artillery strikes to provide cover for Desmond and save more lives. However, this also exposes Howell, Desmond, and the remaining soldiers, making them visible and vulnerable to Japanese forces. But even this is not enough to make Desmond give up. Jeeps arrive to collect the wounded soldiers he lowers down the ridge, but he keeps going, even as Japanese troops close in. Moments later, he finds a wounded soldier and quickly buries him under the dirt before covering himself with a corpse to stay hidden. The trick works. The Japanese pass by without noticing them, allowing Desmond to retrieve the wounded soldier safely and continue his mission. Meanwhile, Glover desperately pleads with his superiors for reinforcements, but they remain hesitant. As the battle rages, Desmond performs one last daring descent down the ridge. This time, however, the enemy sees him. Fleeing under heavy fire, Desmond stumbles and falls into a Japanese tunnel. There, he discovers a fallen enemy soldier who had taken his own life in a final act of honor. The tunnel is used as a covert path for enemy movement, forcing Desmond to remain hidden as Japanese soldiers cross. He remains undetected until he encounters a wounded Japanese soldier. Staying true to his beliefs as a medic, Desmond administers morphine and bandages the man's wounds, refusing to see him as an enemy. By the time he escapes the tunnel, night has fallen, but the darkness does not stop him. Desmond continues to rescue soldiers, his hands torn and bleeding, ignoring the pain as he prays for strength. He even ends up lowering several wounded Japanese soldiers along with his own men. At dawn, Glover is left speechless when he sees dozens of wounded being brought from the battlefield. One of the rescued soldiers finally tells him the truth. The very man everyone called a coward had done it alone. Meanwhile, Desmond comes across Howell and another soldier, both wounded but alive. After getting the wounded soldier to safety, he immediately returns for his sergeant. A Japanese sniper targets him and fires, but his helmet miraculously deflects the bullet, saving his life. Howell still has a few rounds left in his rifle, so Desmond makes a bold move. He runs deliberately, drawing the sniper's attention. The sniper fires again, revealing his position, which allows Howell to take him down with a well-placed shot. With the immediate threat neutralized, Desmond begins dragging Howell to safety. As they retreat, Japanese soldiers spot them and give chase. Howell returns fire, covering their escape while Desmond moves forward, refusing to leave his sergeant behind. As soon as Howell reaches the foot of the ridge, Desmond makes his own bold leap to safety. The Japanese soldiers peer over the edge, ready to finish him off, but before they can fire, Glover and his men gun them down, having arrived just in time to help the last survivors. Desmond is greeted with the utmost respect and is immediately taken to the field hospital. There, he receives the heartbreaking news that the other medic on the team did not survive. Later, Glover visits him, offering a sincere apology for underestimating him. He admits that Desmond has done more for his country than anyone else. Glover then explains that they will return to Hacksaw Ridge the next day, Saturday. He acknowledges that it is Desmond's Sabbath and tells him he will respect his decision if he chooses to observe it rather than join them. Desmond, however, agrees to go. The entire unit waits for him to finish his prayers before launching the attack. This time, the Americans catch the Japanese off guard. With long-awaited reinforcements and the tunnel Desmond had previously discovered, the battle quickly turns in their favor. At one point, a small group of Japanese soldiers steps forward, waving a white flag as if to surrender, but it is a trick. They get close enough to throw a bundle of grenades at the Americans. The enemy soldiers are shot immediately, but Desmond is also wounded while attempting to kick a grenade away to save his team. As the battle continues, the other soldiers carry Desmond on a stretcher, rushing him off the battlefield. Only when they realize he has dropped something do they stop: his Bible. They recover it and place it back in his hands before continuing. The Americans finally emerge victorious, securing Hacksaw Ridge after the Japanese unit leader takes his own life in a ritual seppuku to atone for his failure. In real life, Desmond Doss saved 75 wounded soldiers from the battlefield at Hacksaw Ridge. He became the first conscientious objector to receive the Medal of Honor, the highest award for bravery under fire in the United States. Desmond and Dorothy remained married until her passing in 1991. Despite his heroism, he never sought recognition, always giving credit to his faith and believing that the true heroes were the ones who never came home. He passed away in 2006 at the age of 87.